That morning, the sales team buzzed with excitement. A new shipment of luxury cars had arrived, and high-profile clients were expected throughout the day. Blake, the sales manager, prided himself on spotting serious buyers instantly. His team followed his lead, prioritizing efficiency over friendliness. Then the doors opened, and in walked an elderly woman. She wore a plain coat, comfortable shoes, and carried a simple bag. Her kind eyes scanned the room as she approached the first car. The sales staff exchanged glances. This wasn't a customer they'd waste time on, or so they thought. "Good morning," the woman said, her voice warm but soft. She approached a sleek silver coupe, its price tag reading well into six figures. A young salesman, Daniel, stepped forward with a polite smile, but Blake intercepted him with a sharp glance. "I'll handle this," Blake said, turning his attention to the woman. His practiced smile faltered as he glanced at her worn coat and scuffed shoes. "Can I help you?" he asked, his tone dripping with skepticism. "Yes," she replied, undeterred. "I'm interested in this car. Could you tell me more about it?" Blake's smile tightened. "That model starts at $300,000. Perhaps I could direct you to our pre-owned inventory," he said, gesturing dismissively toward another building. His words drew quiet chuckles from a few staff members nearby. The woman's face flushed, but she held her ground. "I'd still like to know more about this one," she insisted calmly. Blake's patience wore thin. "This vehicle is by appointment only," he lied. Then, spotting a well-dressed couple entering the showroom, he abandoned the woman mid-sentence. Daniel hesitated, then approached her again. "I'm sorry about that," he said quietly. "I can tell you about the car if you'd like." Before they could continue, Blake's loud voice interrupted, drawing attention to the woman's simple attire. "We can't waste time on dreamers," he said. The woman's resolve cracked just slightly. She nodded politely, turned, and walked out. The staff resumed their day, barely noticing her departure. They had no idea that their actions would soon come back to haunt them in a way they never expected. The next morning, the dealership hummed with activity as the staff prepared for a busy day. Just as Blake was reviewing his sales targets, a deep, throaty rumble echoed through the showroom. All eyes turned to the entrance. A Rolls-Royce Phantom, its custom midnight blue finish gleaming in the sunlight, pulled up to the main door. The car was unlike anything the staff had ever seen, sleek, elegant, and unmistakably expensive. The driver, dressed in a perfectly tailored uniform, stepped out and opened the back door with white-glove precision. Out stepped a man whose presence commanded attention. Impeccably dressed in a suit that whispered wealth, he scanned the room with an air of quiet authority. "Good morning," he said, his tone calm yet firm. "I'm Alexander Collins. My wife was here yesterday." Blake's confident demeanor wavered. The realization hit like a tidal wave. This was no ordinary visitor. As whispers spread among the staff, the man's steely gaze fixed on Blake. "I'd like to discuss how she was treated," Alexander said. The room fell silent, and Blake's arrogance was replaced with dread. Blake straightened his tie, masking his unease as he approached Alexander. "Mr. Collins," he began, his voice still carrying a hint of his usual bravado, "I assure you, any misunderstanding can be resolved. Your wife may not have mentioned her—" Alexander raised a hand, silencing him with a calm but firm gesture. "She did mention her interest," he said evenly, "and she mentioned your dismissive attitude. I'm here to understand why a polite inquiry about a car was met with condescension and humiliation." By now, the other sales staff and a few curious customers had gathered, sensing the weight of the moment. Blake glanced nervously at Richard Mason, the dealership owner, who had stepped out of his office. "Mr. Mason," Alexander continued, turning toward him, "your sales manager here suggested that my wife didn't belong in your showroom, that she should look at used cars instead." Mason's face paled. "Mr. Collins, I deeply apologize. This is not the kind of service we pride ourselves on. I assure you—" Alexander interrupted him, his voice remaining calm but unyielding. "Pride, Mr. Mason, isn't determined by apologies. It's reflected in actions. My wife is Margaret Collins, founder of the Collins Foundation for Children with Disabilities. She's raised millions for programs that change lives. Yet your staff decided she wasn't worth their time because of her appearance." The room fell silent as Alexander let the weight of his words settle. Blake stammered, I I didn't know who she was. If I had... And that's the problem, Alexander said sharply. You shouldn't need to know someone's status to treat them with basic respect. Daniel, the young salesman, stepped forward hesitantly. Mr. Collins, he said, his voice quiet but steady, I tried to assist your wife, but I couldn't stop what happened. I'm truly sorry. Alexander nodded, his gaze softening slightly. Thank you, Daniel. Integrity matters, and I appreciate yours. Turning back to Blake, Alexander added, This isn't just about my wife. It's about the message you send to every person who walks through your doors. Today, we're going to ensure that message changes. Mason nodded eagerly. We'll implement immediate training, whatever you recommend. Alexander's expression remained thoughtful. Good, but there's more I'd like to discuss regarding your dealership's culture. Let's continue in your office. Inside Mason's office, Alexander laid out his conditions calmly but firmly. I will purchase the car my wife wanted, cash, as she had planned, but only if you take actionable steps to prevent such incidents in the future. This isn't about punishment, it's about growth. Mason nodded eagerly. What do you propose? First, Alexander said, mandatory customer service training focused on unconscious bias for all employees. Second, Daniel here will handle the sale. He treated my wife with respect, even when others did not. Blake, standing silently in the corner, swallowed hard. Alexander glanced at him. And finally, I expect you, Mr. Thompson, to volunteer with the Collins Foundation for a month. You'll see firsthand the value of treating people with dignity. Blake's face flushed, but he nodded. I understand, sir. As the paperwork began, Alexander smiled faintly. This isn't just a purchase. It's an opportunity for everyone. A month later, the Collins Foundation hosted its annual gala, and Blake was there, not as a guest, but as a volunteer. Dressed in a simple uniform, he helped set up tables and assisted children in wheelchairs. The experience humbled him. When Maggie approached him during the event, he offered a heartfelt apology. I've learned that worth isn't about appearances, but how we treat others, he said sincerely. As the evening ended, Alexander and Maggie shared a quiet moment, watching the room filled with joy and hope. Their lesson had left a lasting impact, reminding everyone, respect transcends wealth or status.